Why has Mike Myers got so much power over this? He's just acting in it. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brain Blaze. As always, I'm your host Simon. I'm here, Danny writes it, I read it, and then Sam is going to edit it. Let's just jump in, shall we? It's massive celebrity dickheads. Baldwin and Myers go to Tinkerhell. Alec Baldwin, Michael Myers, Mike Myers, right? Is this who we're talking about here? There could be other Baldwins, there could be other Myerses. Let's find out, shall we? Mike Myers. One problem with researching a script on famous dickheads is that I often end up discovering things that I didn't really want to know. A part of me would rather never have learned the bitter truth that Gandhi was a hypocritical sex maniac, John Lennon was a wife-beating, neglectful father, and Thomas Edison funded the electrocution of dogs. It is disappointing, isn't it? It is. It is. But I think we all did. I think people knew Lennon was a bit of a dickhead, right? And Edison. And I didn't know Gandhi, but it was also like, Gandhi wasn't like some super... I don't know. I didn't really think much about Gandhi, to be honest. Not that I thought much about John Lennon or Thomas Edison either. I'm just like okay with people being dicks. If it's someone I really like being a dick, like I was a big Kevin Spacey fan, and then it's like, no, Kevin, why? Really disappointing.
What we have is too strong. It's too powerful. You want me back.
And I'm equally disappointed to learn that Mike Myers could also be a bit dickish. I'm obviously talking about the cheeky-faced star of Wayne's World, Austin Powers, and Shrek, rather than the murderous slasher from the Halloween movies. Wait, I don't know. I've only seen Austin Powers. I've not seen Wayne's World. I have seen Shrek. But when I was a kid, you know. But it's particularly sad to learn that whilst the fictional comedy duo of Wayne and Garth may have been inseparable buddies on screen, the real-life comics didn't quite share the same levels of affection for each other. They were never meant to be a comedy duo. When Mike Myers joined the cast of Saturday Night Live in 1989, Dana Garvey was already the well-established comic heavyweight, whilst Mike was the groovy new boy making waves. Wait, is Mike Myers American? Because Saturday Night Live is very American, right? That's an American show with Americans. And it's not as funny as everyone says. People are like, Saturday Night Live is hilarious. I've talked about this before. It's not that funny. I've watched it, and it's like, okay, there are some funny sketches. But, I don't know, I was like, okay, let's watch this, because I like sketch comedy. It's really good. Saturday Night Live is super famous. Bill Murray! The legend that is! Comes from Saturday Night Live. Or not comes from, obviously not. But, like, he was on it. And it's most of it's shit, to be honest.
It is shit, Austin.
Oh, good, then it's not just me.
Hey, Siri, where's Mike Myers from? Why would I want to update my relationships on my iPhone, Siri? What are you talking about? Hey, Siri, where's Mike Myers from? Oh, he's Canadian. He's not here. I was like, okay, so, because I thought he was British because he's like, Austin Powers. And I thought he was American because he was on Saturday Night Live, but he's Canadian. Throw a spanner in the works, Mike Myers. Mike had already test run his character of Wayne in solo sketches for other shows, and it was quite a generous move to invite his rival Dana to appear as Wayne's new sidekick Garth for the proposed Wayne's World segments on Saturday Night Live, even if Dana was only given a 3-word character brief upon which to build. Garth loves Wayne. The audience certainly ended up falling in love with both Wayne and Garth, but this began to pose a problem when the duo made the big leap to the silver screen, as Mike felt Dana was not worthy to share top billing. It seems that Mike still viewed Dana as a rival rather than one half of a successful comic duo, and it is reported that he felt so insecure about Garth stealing the spotlight from Wayne that he originally didn't want Dana to appear at all in the movie versions. And just realizing how good Mike Myers was in Austin Powers, for me to not realize that he wasn't really British, because often, like, I'll see like Americans or Canadians playing British people, and you're like, you can tell. And I guess Austin Powers is like a hammed up British person, but often you can tell, and I couldn't tell. Never thought about that. I just always assumed he was British this whole time. And he's Canadian. Indeed, he originally didn't want Dana to appear at all in the movie versions. Although Mike was persuaded that Wayne and Garth should come together as a package, Dana began to feel upset when he noticed that every new script rewrite pushed Garth further and further out of the pages. Dana actually quit the first movie just 3 weeks before filming when he received the latest version of the script, which completely ignored his own suggestions and reduced the role of Garth to little more than a cameo. Why has Mike Myers got so much power over this? He's just acting in it. The script was hastily rewritten to persuade Dana back into production, and it's now difficult to imagine Wayne's World movies without Garth at the forefront. But Dana wasn't the only one to clash with Mike on the set of the first movie. Director Penelope Spheris has recently downplayed any suggestion of a nasty feud between herself and Mike, whilst conceding that Mike ensured that she wasn't invited back to direct the sequel as he hated the final cut of the original. She's like, no bad blood, no bad blood. It just cost me a major high-paying job because the second movie would have paid a lot more because the first movie was successful and I would have been in a stronger negotiating position. No bad blood, Mike, nothing. No, it's fine. Everything's good. Dick. But she was a little more forthright in her older interviews in which she described Mike as difficult and emotionally needy guy who would regularly fly off the handle and who once stormed off set because he couldn't get any margarine for his bagel. This is one of these things. And, you know, sometimes, and I find myself in things where I'm like, oh my God, I'm being a privileged f***. And you've got to like, that sort of thing is like, you got to like check yourself. Right? Because you might be upset in that moment. You might be genuinely angry that there is no margarine for your bagel. And you could be like, for fuck's sake. Like, so, I don't know, you could be in a situation where you're staying at a super nice hotel, it's super expensive, and all of this shit, and then you get down there and there's like, I don't really want margarine on my bagel, but let's say they only had margarine, there's no butter. And I'll be like, for fuck's sake, you don't have any butter? How much am I paying? Like, let's get some butter out here. What the fuck is going on? But then just to look at that objectively, you're clearly a bellend. So you've always, I don't know, it's just good to like check yourself before you wreck yourself, you know? Right? Just keep it in check. Be like, if you ever find yourself like shouting at someone or walking out, storming out of a room because there's no butter or margarine for your bagel, just be like, oh no, look, I am a dickhead. Oh, how about that? The tensions between Mike and Dana continued to simmer long after they had both shut the doors for good on Wayne's basement. I get none of these jokes. I've never seen Wayne's World. Back in the Saturday Night Live days, Dana had regularly performed private backstage impressions of the show's creator and producer Lorne Michaels, a part of which involved the raising of his pinky to his lips. Dana felt that Mike had completely ripped off this impression by using exactly the same voice and mannerisms for the Dr. Evil villain from the Austin Powers franchise. This is a tricky one, as Dr. Evil is also clearly a parody of Blofeld from the Bond movies, and I'm not sure you can claim ownership of a specific impression of somebody else which was never performed in public. Wait, what are you supposed... This is totally fine. Are you not supposed to take inspiration from real life when making a movie? Like, and where does that stop? It's like, no, I don't cry in my movies because I don't want to rip off people crying in the real world. It's like, that's totally fine. It's just taking inspiration from something. That's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous argument. It could be the case that Dana was feeling particularly miffed because his own career had gone mysteriously quiet, whilst Mike was scaling the heights of fame with a blockbuster franchise featuring a character which Dana felt had been stolen. Wait, did Mike Myers also play Dr. Evil? Hey Siri, who plays Dr. Evil in Austin Powers? Hey Siri, who does Mike Myers play in Austin Powers? Oh, fuck off, Siri. Now I've got to look this up, you dick. I gotta check myself. I'm just yelling at Siri because they don't understand me. Fortunately, Siri's a robot, so you can be entitled to robots until they rise up and murder us all.
A few moments later.
No fucking way! Dr. Evil's also played by Mike Myers. I had no fucking idea. I was like, oh, Mike just must be involved in the creative process. Like, he's playing Austin Powers, obviously, and then he's on set with whoever's playing Dr. Evil, and he's like, dude, try this. That's mad. That's mad. They look completely different. But perhaps at least some sort of small acknowledgement of the inspiration may have diffused the resentment that Dana admits he felt for years. Dana, mate, you need to chill out. Okay? There was more chance of monkeys flying out of Mike's butt, though. He insisted that Dr. Evil was more Donald Pleasance than Lorne Michaels and cackled evilly all the way to the bank. Mike continued to ruffle feathers on many of his subsequent movies, on which he was regularly described as being angry, insufferable, demanding, and threatening. For example, it's like angry, insufferable, demanding. These are bad traits. It's not, it's not good. I sometimes get angry. I got a bit of a temper. And I feel that's not a positive character trait, but being threatening? That's like some different level shit. I'm not threatening. I don't threaten people. That's intense. I mean, unless they need threatening. For example, Amy Hill, Mike's co-star in the universally panned litter tray that was 2003's The Cat in the Hat, had a particularly murderous axe to grind about Mike's on-set behavior, describing the whole thing as a horrible and nightmarish experience. Damn, Amy! She claimed that Mike refused to engage with anyone who wasn't already part of his inner circle and employed some guy just to stand next to him all day long holding a Tupperware container crammed full of chocolate for whenever Mike felt a bit peckish. Amy noted, "That's what divas are like, I guess, or people who need therapy." Still, at least there's a happy ending for Wayne and Garth. Mike and Dana recently reprised the roles for a series of Uber Eats commercials shown during Super Bowl Sunday. And whilst the commercials come across like a sad cash grab, Dana reported in 2022 that he and Mike are now older and wiser and back on good terms, whilst Mike has finally acknowledged that his own movie career was given an enormous leg up by his original co-star. Mike Myers has since donated all of his wealth to Save the Otter Fund and currently lives in a half-broken caravan on the Panda campsite. No, he fucking doesn't. In Skegness. Not. I don't even get it. Am I missing a joke? Or are we just saying that he did? Okay. Julia Roberts, the Oscar-winning star who shot to fame in Pretty Woman. This will shock you to know that I've never seen that movie. She was the highest paid actress of the 1990s. Whoa, the highest paid actress of a decade. You're making some money. And indeed, much of the noughties. Cheddar, cheddar. But there may have been an unwelcome sour side to America's sweetheart. Julia Roberts' relationships with men were often dragged through the muddier pages of the press, and we shouldn't point the ring finger too squarely in Julia's direction here, as private relationships can be a complicated business. I do feel, though, it's like if there's a relationship, and it's like, okay, so they're getting divorced. And they go to meet with the lawyers. You know, it's like, okay, we're getting divorced and we need to split things up. And one person's been like married and divorced 7 times. And the other person's like not. It's like, whose fault is this? Right? She most famously dumped Kiefer Sutherland in 1991, just 3 days before what was billed as the fantasy wedding of the decade at 20th Century Fox Soundstage 14. Fucking hell, that's savage. Poor Kiefer. 8 years before Julia took the title role in Runaway Bride, Kiefer found out from a mutual friend that his bride-to-be had in fact run off with his good mate Jason Patric. No, that's so rough. Oh God. But it's believed that there were faults on both sides for the last-minute cancellation, and at least Kiefer was spared the indignity of being jilted at the altar. Julia displayed a rather more visible acidic side to her personality when she later began dating cameraman Daniel Moder, who was problematically already married to makeup artist Vera Steinberg. Julia and Daniel decided that they wanted to make their new relationship official, but a distraught Vera initially refused to sign the divorce papers. Julia's distasteful public response was to head down West Hollywood and ensure that she got snapped by paparazzi whilst wearing a homemade t-shirt bearing the slogan Aloe Vera, presumably a pun on the cactus-like shrub aloe vera, but also a rather petty public snipe at the nuisance wife that she wanted out of the picture. Fucking hell, mate, that's not okay. That's really distasteful. That's not going to look good for you, obviously. Don't you have a PR person, Julia? Come on. It was a stunt that didn't go down too well with Vera's family, or indeed Daniel's family, who had grown close over the couple's 5 years of marriage. Does this go down well with anyone? It's super distasteful. When Julia was later questioned about the t-shirt by Oprah Winfrey, the actress responded that it was a private matter, an explanation which didn't really sit well with the manner in which she was smugly posing for the press while stylishly sipping a cappuccino in a busy location. It was a private matter. Julia, you're a celebrity. When you're out and about wearing a t-shirt with some shit like that on it, it's not a private matter, is it? I mean, you could not talk about it, and it also makes you look like a bell because you're on a fucking talk show. Julia's troubled relationship with her own family have also generated press headlines over the years, most tragically when her younger half-sister Nancy Motes took her own life in 2014 at the age of just 37. We shouldn't make any rash judgments on this delicate family matter, as we don't know the full extent of the fractured relationship, and Nancy was clearly a deeply troubled soul. What we do know is that Nancy's widower later accused Julia of bullying and taunting Nancy, whilst leaking text messages that revealed that Julia appeared to be dictating when Nancy might be given permission to visit their sick mother in hospital without getting in Julia's way. I was a minute ago calling that t-shirt distasteful. I have to say, Danny, that this feels a bit distasteful. Like, people's sick mother, her sister's suicide. I think my opinion on this is people need to be cut a lot of slack when they're dealing with sick mother or troubled sister or anything like this. I think it's distasteful for us to be talking about this. So I'm just gonna skip ahead a little bit, actually. It appears that Julia also had a reputation for throwing tantrums on movie sets. See, this is fine, throwing tantrums on this is good. Like, let's get back to like this sort of stuff and leave her like really private personal life alone, because I don't know, I like just it's not okay. It's not okay. Which would have made the idea of working with Mike Myers seem like a swing in the park. Oh my god, I don't get it. Swing, I don't get it. Most famously, Julia took on the role of Tinkerbell for 1991's Hook, the sequel to Peter Pan, notable for being a rare misfire from director Steven Spielberg, but her behavior on set inspired the production crew to privately refer to her by the nickname of Tinker Hell. One member of the crew revealed how Julia would lock herself in the trailer for hours, turn up late on set without a hint of an apology, and occasionally appear on the brink of hysteria. She even managed to upset usually cordial Spielberg himself, although he was typically restrained in his overview of the situation. He did note in his autobiography that during production, Julia had once again waltzed onto the set hours late without apology to cheerfully announce, "I'm ready now, peons!" No, she just said, "I'm ready now." I added the peons because for, dramatic effect. That's what they do. Spielberg curtly responded, "We're ready when I say we're ready, Julia." Yeah, because he's the fucking director. Legend.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
During an interview with 60 Minutes, Spielberg quite generously suggested that maybe the timing had just been unfortunate as Julia was enduring a rocky period in a turbulent relationship with Kiefer Sutherland. Which we already learned. What were you up to, Julia? Why was it rocky, Julia? When pushed harder by 60 Minutes on the question of whether he would ever choose to work with her again, Spielberg's simple answer was
No.
This was enough to send Julia into another hissy fit. She later ranted, "I saw that, and my eyes popped out of my head. I couldn't believe that this person that I knew and trusted was actually hesitating to come to my defense. It was a hard lesson to learn. It was the first time that I felt I had a turncoat in my midst." A turncoat. A turncoat is someone who betrays you. He's just like, "I don't want to work with you anymore." That's not a turncoat. A turncoat in a miss. Well, that's Spielberg's card marked. Yeah, Spielberg's probably like, "Oh no, who else can I possibly work with? Oh wait. No, hold on. I'm Steven fucking Spielberg. I can work with whoever I want. Tom, yeah, mate, I've got a movie for you. Yeah. Other Tom. I meant Tom Cruise, but it could equally be Tom Hanks. It could be anyone, because he's Steven Spielberg. He's like the biggest director in the world. Other than that dude who uses all of those, is he as big as he used to be? The guy with the lens flares? J.J. Abrams. Julia's movie career has largely walked the plank in more recent years, but she's still with Daniel Moder after 20 years of marriage, so at least Vera finally took the not-so-subtle t-shirt hint. Alec Baldwin. Oh, where do you even start with bloody Alec Baldwin? He might have won a clutch of awards for his successful TV and movie career, and most recently from his celebrated impressions of Trump on Saturday Night Live, which appears to be something of a breeding ground for dickheads. Danny, don't say that. Bill Murray comes from Saturday Night Live, and he is the legendariest of all legends. But he's a strong contender for public bellends, number one. Obvious place to start would be the recent tragic shooting on the set of the movie Rust, in which cinematographer Halyna Hutchins was killed after being shot by a mistakenly loaded gun allegedly handed to and fired by Baldwin. I don't want to spend too much time on this, as it was obviously a terrible accident and the criminal investigation is ongoing, but Baldwin is very keen to let you know that he feels no guilt because it wasn't his fault. Sure, don't feel guilty if something's not your fault. I'm glad that you can be so rational. But don't be too keen to be shouting that around. Like, just be like, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. I feel terrible about it. It wasn't my fault. Yeah, but that's okay. He once strangely claimed that he didn't even pull the trigger. Whilst Baldwin doesn't know exactly who to blame yet, he has suggested that it was the fault of either production crew, the armorer, or even Halyna herself for standing in the line of fire. Okay, just definitely not him. In the immediate aftermath of the tragedy, Baldwin stated, "I'm fully cooperating with the police investigation to address how this tragedy occurred, and I'm in touch with her husband, offering my support to him and his family." However, when the Santa Fe police later requested to search Baldwin's cell phone for evidence, he refused to hand it over without a warrant. Again, this is totally fine, because probably when it first happened, he was like, "Oh my god, of course I will cooperate, this isn't my fault." But then you get a lawyer. Because of course you do. Because even if you're completely innocent, just get a lawyer, just in case. Just make sure everything's fine. Get a good lawyer.
Why didn't you say anything stupid? By anything stupid, I mean anything at all. Look at you, mouth open, vocal cords at Twitter.
And the lawyer will be like, "Don't f***ing hand over your phone." And he's probably like, "There's nothing on there, it's fine." And the lawyer will be just, "Don't do it!" And he's probably like, "Okay, I think this is fine." The phone was ultimately seized after a warrant was issued. Thank you for your full cooperation and support, Mr. Baldwin. But whilst Baldwin may never have faced a situation on this devastating scale before, he certainly got a reputation for rubbing people up the wrong way, or if all else fails, just punching them in the old face. Baldwin is very protective of his family, you see, and he has no qualms in attacking photographers who cross the line. During one such incident in 1995, Baldwin was leaving the family home with his then-wife, Kim Basinger, and newborn daughter, Arland, when he spotted a photographer and allegedly punched him in the nose before spraying shaving cream all over the photographer's car. Oh my lord. That is fairly intense. But I can also understand how this can get incredibly irritating. And it was probably a photographer stepping over a line. He probably didn't spot the photographer, run over to him while he was photographing from a distance and smash him in the face. If he did, that's mega dickhead. The photographer was probably getting all up in his business and shit. And I'll be like, I don't know, I can't blame him that hard for punching the dude in the face. Although he was acquitted in the subsequent $1 million lawsuit, it was later ordered to pay a paltry $4,500 in a later civil trial, which was probably a disappointing day in court for the photographer, which seems totally fine. His car's not damaged, it's got shaving foam, so you're going to have to pay $20 to get it washed. Fine. Getting punched in the face? I'd say $5,480 for getting $4,480, sorry, for getting punched in the face is a pretty good deal. To be honest. Would I get punched in the face for $4,480? No. Would I have if I had less money? Yeah. Yeah, I would. And also, I'd have to use a lot of makeup to do videos for a couple of weeks, which would be a hassle. Also, I don't want to get punched in the face. I would have done in the past. Totally. When I was a student, if someone would be like, "Well, punch you in the face for $5,000, I'd be like, yes, how many times? There were slightly more serious consequences for Baldwin in 2013 when he yelled an unrepeatable homophobic slur at a photographer in the streets. Baldwin limply claimed that he had only used the word fathead, but the evidence caught on tape suggests otherwise. Also, fathead? Really?
Hello, I'm Alec Baldwin. Sometimes I accidentally tweet things that are homophobic. I don't think that way. I just type that way.
MSNBC promptly cancelled the new show Up Late with Alec Baldwin. Oh, dude. I mean, yes, deserved. But holy shit, can you imagine doing that? Just be like, you F word. And then it's like you lose your show, which I'm sure is going to make you a ton of money and help your career and all of this stuff. Like Up Late with Alec Baldwin, that sounds like a major nighttime, late night show, doesn't it? Oh, it had only been on the air for 5 episodes, but that was no great loss as nobody had been tuning in anyway. Oh, okay. It's not just the paparazzi that wind up Baldwin. He also hates the police, diligent airport staff, and anyone else who dares take a parking spot that he was eyeing up for himself. In 2014, he was arrested for riding his bike the wrong way down Fifth Avenue and belligerently refusing to hand over any ID. Do you have to hand over ID? And he's riding the bike down the wrong... I feel like we're giving Alec Baldwin a bit of a hard time, but maybe I'm just a dickhead myself. But, like, I don't feel like riding a bike the wrong way down the street is an arrestable offense. I used to just ride my bike around London and not really give a shit. And I once got pulled over by the police, which I didn't even realize was a thing. And they're like, "Do you know how many red lights you ran while we've been following you?" And I was like, "It was at least 3." And they were like, "It was at least 3." And they were like, "This is a warning. It's for your own safety. Stop running red lights." I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Because I'm like, I'm on a bike. I'm just like checking left and right and then going for it. And I wouldn't do that these days because I obviously realize it's more dangerous and I have like more concern over my own safety and allegedly respect for the law. He also seemed quite annoyed that the police officers were too young to recognize him. Presumably, if the police were a bit more culturally educated, they would have allowed an A-lister like Baldwin to carry on cycling the wrong way down Fifth Avenue. Baldwin later noted, "New York City is a mismanaged carnival of stupidity that is desperate for revenue and anxious to criminalize behavior once thought benign."
I love social media.
A few years earlier, in 2011, Baldwin had been booted off an American Airlines flight for refusing to turn off his cell phone as the plane was preparing to take off. Dude, just turn off the fucking phone. Your privilege is like, your, not privilege, what's the right? Entitlement is so strong, Baldwin. I've been on planes and like someone's been on the phone and the stewardess has asked them, or steward or whoever, I don't know what the term is for people who, the people who serve the peanuts and do all the safety stuff and not belittling it. Oh my God, digging a hole, Simon. The people on the plane asked the person to turn off the phone like 3 times. And then eventually they were like, you have to, or you're going to have to get off the plane. But it's like, just turn it off the first time and stop the circus performance. He was reportedly engrossed in a game of words with friends with a completely flipped out when he was told to switch it off. The airport staff were another uneducated mob who were clearly too young to recognize him and failed to comprehend that he was on the verge of playing the word cockwomble over a triple word tile. Baldwin's defense, there was a Soviet-level enforcement of the rules. The lesson I've learned is to keep my phone off when the 1950s gym teacher is on duty. Meanwhile, Baldwin was again arrested in 2018 after getting into a dispute over that parking spot. The other guy was sent to hospital after Baldwin allegedly punched him in the face, but both parties reached a private settlement. I bet that was expensive. However, one of Baldwin's most infamous moments took place in 2007 when a leaked voicemail exposed one of his angry outbursts to his own family. That's the same family of which he's so fiercely protective, if you remember. It's often wrongly reported that the target of Baldwin's sweary eruption was his own teenage daughter, Ireland, but that's entirely untrue and unfair. In fact, she was only 11. Baldwin had recently gone through a messy divorce with Kim Basinger and appeared to be venting his anger in the direction of young Ireland, who had annoyed him by failing to answer the pre-arranged call and letting it go to voicemail. During the long, rambling message, Baldwin ranted, "You are a rude, thoughtless little pig. You don't have the brains or the decency as a human being. I don't give a damn that you're 12 years old or 11 years old, or that your mother is a thoughtless pain in the arse who doesn't care about what you do as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to straighten your ass out, pig. Oh, go tell your mother I said, go fuck yourself. This is Dad. Ring me back when you get a chance."
Daddy, chill.
One, I feel like, yes, this is a very dickhead thing to do. But I would also... It's also like private voicemail messages being leaked. It's like, I don't know. If this was me, and I wouldn't talk to my kids this way, but it's like, I don't know. It still feels like this is so private. And I get like famous people lose their right to privacy. But I also feel like, shit, as like an F-list celebrity, I'd be like, oh man, no, get the out of my business, bruh. Father and grown-up daughter tried to joke about the incident many years later, but it sounds like a voicemail that won't ever be erased from history, and Baldwin's visitation rights to his daughter were briefly suspended in the immediate aftermath of the leak. Maybe Baldwin was just having a bad day because there weren't any photographers in the immediate vicinity to punch. The most worrying thing about all of this is that Alec has 3 brothers, and whilst I suggested earlier that he's a contender for public bell-end number 1, the jury's out on whether he's even the biggest dickhead of the 4 Baldwins. There are 4 Baldwins? Are they famous? I'm sure maybe they are. I don't even know. And if they're not, man, that's like, brothers are competitive, right? And if your brother's Alec Baldwin, that's going to be like, that's intense. Although it does, maybe it's okay. Who knows? Thanks for watching.